everybody, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 9 of The Dive. I am Jat. Kobe is back. How are you feeling?
Way better.
Kobe is feeling better. Azael's not back.
Yep.
And Phreak has moved from the middle chair to the end chair.
Yep. You're next, Jat.
Apparently.
I stole Azael's power
Yeah.
in order to heal myself.
Nice.
We were figuring out earlier that Phreak has sat in more unique dive chairs than anyone else at Riot Games.
Anyone else, period.
Yeah, in the world.
I think,
In the world.
I've sat in each of the chairs.
Not
for one of the
You've
shows.
actually taken this chair and
sat
like
in that
moved
chair.
it to the
Okay.
middle.
No, I didn't move it to the
All right,
middle.
then we're tied
sat
for first,
down in the
Kobe.
spot?
We're tied for first. High five. Yay!
Anyway,
Winners!
the point is
Sat in
Phreak has filled in for all of us as we cycle illnesses, apparently. Today we're going to be talking about a few things.
You're sick now, by the way.
Oh, great.
Yeah, he's in the sick chair. Gaming houses and whether or not they stunt player growth. There was an Ottawamne article where he wrote kind of about his journey as a pro player, and one of the things he talked about was how there's no privacy in gaming houses. We'll also be talking about the current meta in competitive. We'll be talking about patch 8.5 because that shipped last night, and we'll also talk a little bit about the North American LCS at the end of the show.
Kaisa.
As we always do. And Kaisa,
Part of the patch.
which will be part of the patch. That'll be in the state of the meta. But for now, it's global news.
Cool.
And just the topic of gaming houses. So if you guys haven't checked out the article, do. It was on Reddit a couple days ago. It was Ottawamne talking about gaming houses. Basically, there's a clickbait headline. He talked about a lot of other things in the article as well, like how amazing Worlds was and how he'll look back about being an esports pro and how it'll be awesome, but also kind of how young the scene is. And he kind of feels like this gaming house thing is a little archaic at this point. I'll just start with the conversation. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
of gaming
I thought it was really interesting because there have been a lot of the teams in North America that have begun doing this. We're getting an office space. But a lot of them are also still housing all the players in the same house. So you still have the situation where you live with the.
It's like you live in a dorm and you all go to the same class.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're in college or
all the
something.
time.
Which seems really kind of missing the point maybe of so the point they're thinking of separating work from home or whatever.
Yeah,
and
useful.
separating with the office. I think that's a really good idea.
I agree.
But then the most cost-effective way for them to house also all the players, right? Because they're paying for all the housing.
Get a 5-bedroom apartment or whatever.
Exactly. Do that. But this hit about it kind of stunting player growth, I think, is touching more on the living with the same people and that still staying in basically the same or similar environments.
Well, there's some weird incentives as well. So, I mean, I agree, by the way, that I think players should live separately and not just I have my own bedroom in the same apartment. We see each other all the time. But the reason I say there's a weird incentive is right now, as far as I can tell, pretty much every pro team ever just here you go, you live for free. And part of the perks of being a pro is you just don't pay for housing. And I realize Los Angeles is not the cheapest place to live, and it's going to cost you
one of the most expensive, actually.
Yeah. It's going to cost you $2K-ish to get a 1-bedroom apartment per month. That's for those who don't live in Los Angeles. Yeah, it's $2,000 a month to live by yourself. That's what it costs you. Good luck, have fun. But the minimum salary in the LCS is $75K or something. You can live in LA on $75K. That's not that hard.
I think they released even the average was $300.
Sure,
but
That was
if
an
you're
article from ESPN or something that had some sources.
And so, I'm going to guess because I don't know the salaries. If you're solo, right, you're practically a rookie coming in, right? You're not the big name in the team. If you're making $75K, you can still afford to live by yourself in LA. Yeah, you're not going to live as luxurious as
but would you also
else,
rather have $24,000 more dollars?
Well, of course, and that's why it's a perverse incentive. Is especially when you are on the lower end of the spectrum, this is a non-trivial amount of your income, almost no matter what you make, no matter what. But and so you're incentivized to save a hell of a lot of money and live for free via the team or whatever. And I feel again, incentives are all weird because it's cheaper for the team, it's cheaper for the players. It's just so much of it makes logical sense to live together, but it probably is healthier and happier and everything else if you could live by yourself, even if you're on the same block or something, but just actually having your own apartment or whatever.
Well, let's talk about some of the incentives on both sides.
Sure.
So one of the ideas, TSM was the first team to do a gaming house in North America, and that was in 2012 when they did it in New York for League gaming houses. And one thing Ottawamne talks about in his article was how there was always this pressure to play solo queue instead of doing anything else. Because especially in some of the earlier gaming houses, you didn't even have your own room. So if you were ever doing something that wasn't league related, and God forbid you lost last week in the LCS, you should be grinding 24/7. And when the culture shifts in the wrong way, it can be super toxic in that sense. If someone thinks you kind of, if someone thinks you kind of suck and then they see you in solo queue and they see you losing and you're not hiding and you're never able to improve and you're never able to fail, you're actually never going to improve when you're in that environment. But in the best sense, like why teams kind of like it is, wow, this will motivate you to play all the time, right? Sure. In a healthy culture, it might be able to help. And I think that's one of the reasons that became the culture is like, wow, it's the perfect environment where you can only focus on League and you don't have distractions, right? You don't have to worry about traffic. You don't have to worry about commuting. You don't have to worry about food. You don't have to worry about any of these other things. So I can see why we've kind of gotten to the place where gaming houses are so everywhere. But I do think in a healthy team culture, not only would I not want the players to practice where they play, I would also almost want to sort of enforce a certain level of alone time, right? Like instead of just practicing in the playing area like a lot of the gaming houses do where they have that common area, like there should be 2 or 3 hours where you're just either in your room or in your own apartment like every night where you can actually do whatever the hell you want. Yep. Because I think that's really healthy for long-term growth. Yeah, it's a really difficult debate actually to have because it is different from person to person. I know that let's say we did have this world where not only are they have this separated office space, but they also, all the players have their own, living areas or whatever. Yeah. And they have this kind of mandated, you get your free time, you get your time off or whatever. Then when we do bad at Worlds, I know that people would definitely point to, oh, look at this Korean infrastructure, though. The Korean players are so dedicated that they're actually playing 24/7 solo queue whenever they're not scrimming. They're scrimming maximum blocks, and then they're also like this is their lives, and everyone's just applauding them. Oh my God, that's why they're so they try so dominating hard. Everyone, and that's. There's a lot of truth that level of dedication gets a lot of success, but it is a very interesting balancing act because a lot of the pros have voiced to me specifically like concerns about burnout, even just this year going from 2 blocks to 3 blocks or whatever, and 3 blocks is probably like a 12-hour day or something. And then they get like maybe 1 day a week off or something like that. Roughly. But pros already have this concern around burnout, so it has to do with the culture, kind of the upbringing, but also player to player, how your mentality kind of sits and how you're going to operate, what's going to be best. And again, I'll say that I agree with you that more practice is almost always going to be better, but there's plenty of cases where like it didn't help. Like Piglet was like, I'm going to only sleep 4 hours a night so I can get good again. And nope, sorry, you still got bench and now you're playing in Academy. Like clearly didn't make you that much better. Bang famously did really poorly for SKT last year, and they lost Worlds for the first time in history of going to Worlds. And it's not like he stopped being Korean and being coached by Como, right? Like, but Bang suddenly got bad compared to his regular form, right? What, is he not practicing enough? Like, really? Or, was he just having a slump? And so, to a certain extent, like, I agree that you can just sort of scapegoat, oh, you didn't practice 30 hours this day. And I think that's what happens sometimes when the gaming houses are a 3-bedroom apartment and you put 6 people there. Yeah. And they just live there 20 hours. You just scapegoat each other, even if it's not fair. I mean, imagine if we all had to share Why are you not practice casting right now, Jack? Right? Like, if all the casters were sharing a room for a year. Yeah. Right? Like, imagine any of your friends. You literally said share a room, not even just a house. Like, I get the closet, you get one bed, you get the other bed. That's what some of the gaming houses have been. Yep, absolutely. You share a room with Sneaky won the NA LCS in a closet. Like he slept in a closet. Like, that's not a lie. That was where he slept. And he won the NA LCS in 2013 summer. Like, that was his living situation. It's like, all right, great. Anyway, so wherever we're going with this is I think Adewamne has some really good points, and I don't actually think at this point you'll find many people that would disagree with it. Like, yes, it's actually important to be able to live in your own place. And yes, it is important to separate work and life. It's just a matter of getting everyone on board with that and getting people to know that it's worth the trade-offs. Just because it is very alluring to be like, oh yeah, I'll just live for free. And it doesn't matter that I'll have this person who's a roommate, but like those quality of life things really do matter a lot. Like even when I was going to college, it's like the first year, I was just trying to find the cheapest place possible to live. And I was like, great, I can totally sleep in this tiny little room that was like next to a furnace that turned on in the middle of the night because it was in Edmonton and it was super cold. But I was like, I'm paying $200 a month. Not bad. Like, this is amazing. Yeah. But I was so sad because I never got a good night's sleep. So the next month I paid double and I was happy, right? So those things are actually very important.
Yeah, especially as we move into this new world where we're franchised and players are thinking more long-term about these long-term commitments and careers that they want to have. Because, I mean, if you go all out at 1 year and you go 24/7, you know, like you can get through that year, and that's going to be a lot of intense practice, and you know, maybe you peak really hard that year or something. Sure. But if you're thinking about the long-term health, then I think the burnout issue and these sorts of concerns start to gain more and more weight.
Yeah. And you're more likely to burn out if you're in a house with
and ultimately, like everyone has the amount of everyone has a breaking point for how much they're willing to practice and remain healthy and happy, right? And like when I was in college, I played Warcraft 320 games a day to try to be a pro gamer. Now I don't, because I'm not trying to be a pro gamer anymore, right? I don't play.
Hey, they just redid Warcraft, dude. I was watching it on
They
Twitch.
put some patches. I watched the stream a little bit. It was,
Grubby was smashing some people.
Yeah, because he's only like active player still in that tournament. Like it was a weird tournament. I don't really want to get into that so much, but half those players were
Phreak's tilted.
Yeah. Well, no, it's fine. I mean, whatever. I would have been worse because I haven't played actively in 5 years or more. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like I said, everyone has an amount they're willing to practice, and like I think people should be allowed to play, you know, to their stress level.
Yeah. I want to talk quickly about SKT.
Okay. I thought you were going to skip by it, yeah.
SKT, man, it's what we're talking about. So they got smashed a little bit earlier in this week by Kingzone Dragon X, especially Game 2. You should go watch Game 2 of Kingzone Dragon X versus SKT if you want a quick, entertaining game to watch. But they play KT Rolster tonight. And I think they're at a very interesting inflection point of their season because they are currently 6-7.
Yeah.
And that puts them in 6th place. And only the top 5 teams make playoffs even in the LCK. So, A, how do you think they'll do against KT Rolster this weekend, or rather tonight?
Badly.
And then B, Kobe and I, we talked about this weeks ago when SKT started the season 1-5 and actually ended up going like 5-1 from that point to improve a whole lot. So like kind of what do you think of SKT now?
Yeah, people have been tweeting me about this.
Yeah, man.
Every time SKT wins a game, they're like, Kobe said 0% chance they go to MSI.
You did say that.
I did say that.
Yeah.
You gave them like 10% or something.
I gave them a very small percentage, but there was a chance.
Yeah. Back at that period, I would still probably stand by the statement. If I redid it now, I'd maybe give them a very slim margin to be able to get there, slightly greater than 0, but I still
to 0.5.
I still do not expect them to see it the midseason invitational. I don't think people understand. That means winning all of LCK, you know, going through playoffs, beating in best of series.
Yep.
Not only KT Rolster, but also Kingzone.
Kingzone, Phreak, KSV, like all those guys, like, I don't think it's going to happen.
But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the match tonight. I would get insanely hyped if SKT start to just go insano mode. You know, Blossom is popping off. He doesn't make mistakes anymore. It's just all the good aggressive plays, none of the bad plays. And they get a new top laner. I don't see myself getting hyped about any of the top laners that they have had. Maybe like
Wolf goes top like this time.
Yeah, somebody else goes top lane or whatever.
Again.
But you know, I would get really hyped up if SK Telecom start to go on a big roll. But I don't predict it to happen, right?
Yes, I agree.
I actually don't want them to beat any of the teams in the top 4, though. Like, I don't want them to beat Kingzone, which is X Longzhu. I don't want them to beat KT. Like, I actually want Phreak to do well, just because it's exciting to see them, like, kind of continue to climb every time. And I want KSV, which is X Samsung, for those who aren't watching very closely.
Yeah, and Kingzone is X Longzhu.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like all those teams are like teams that I want to see do well. Like, I kind of want to see KSV come and like defend their world championship. Like, that's kind of cool, even though they're not the best team. Like, I also want to see like Peanut smash everyone. Right? I want to see him go to MSI.
Well, the other thing that was cool about that game, you know, not only did SKT get smashed by Kingzone and Peanut was popping off and Olaf is back in it, but it was on the new patch.
Yep.
And I actually enjoyed, the little bit of change of pace.
Yeah, I gotta say, talking about 8.4 and what it's done competitive, if that's okay to transition.
Yeah,
be cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
I don't have to ask for permission on.
I just want to make sure because
actually,
Phreak,
you do.
I am the guest.
Phreak does.
I'm being polite in your home.
I like this
to
rule.
both of you. This is me. This is how I'm going to do. Because I heard both sides of it, right? Like if you reduce vision, which is the camp I was in, you'll have more aggressive, and the other side of it, which is we're not going to have aggressive plays because now you're afraid. And I think we're very securely in the first camp now. After watching the games, people seem to be more aggressive. Plays are happening a bit more. The games appear. I mean, sure, there is 8 to 10 games in Korea and 10 in Europe, 10 in NA, but it feels like ganks are happening. Like the junglers are grabbing red smite in 8 out of 10 cases, and like they're fighting people, and we saw Olaf come back in and everything else, and it's like cool, this is exciting. Like ganks are happening, and it just seems like an improvement. So I'm like very happy that Tracker's Knife, I think, kind of snuck under the radar because of the Banner of Command hype coming out. But like the first 15 minutes seemed to be a lot more action-packed, which I'm very happy about.
So this is super interesting because we were trying to get some stats to support this after the first week of the NA LCS. And I can't find them right now, but at least from an average game time perspective, EU went up on patch 8.4 by like 3 minutes.
Okay.
And then I think NA
went down 2 minutes about
on the first day.
Oh.
I think on the second day it went up again. So game time didn't change. And then we were pulling combined kills per minute.
Right.
Both before 20 minutes, like before Baron, and then after Baron. And both of those were also the same. So like the actual pace of the game hadn't changed based on that sample.
Sure. Was this compared to 8.3 or compared to the season?
This was compared to the season.
Okay. Because 8.3 was like faster than the other two patches, for example.
For sure, exactly. Because the game, at least in NA, had actually gotten faster every single week, even as teams kind of got better closing. And one thing that I want to see more development on, and I'll know this once I talk a little bit more with coaches, but the lack of vision in the top lane, changing the team compositions that you can run to needing a tank. And whether or not that speeds or slows games down. Because it's not so much about what is blind and what is not. Right. It's kind of like, well, how can we get this thing that we so desire, which is needing to know what is in this brush? Well, so if we can't have a ward there, well, we got to put a tank there.
Sure.
And if both teams are putting a tank there, they now have less tools to kill the tank. And I wonder if the game ends. And that's kind of the thing that I still think is unsolved and I want to see more development on.
So I actually talked with Xpecial. He was in the LCS studio on Saturday, and he said tank tops means more team fighting. I think he kind of implied that it was tank tops versus fighter tops.
Right, because less split pushing.
You have to go team fight. Like, you'll just lose the game if you're playing Sion against Kled and doing nothing. So it's like Sion has to roam down or Malk has to roam down and then TP flank and do something. And he's like, tank tops make team fighting happen more often because you can't just 1-through-1 to victory. I was like, okay, cool. And then it's funny because like I trust in stats very heavily, and so apparently like there's actually not more kills, and the games aren't really faster kind of globally. So but the games looked more enticing to me, and
I agree
for whatever reason that happened.
The eye test was telling me to sped up, but then I haven't found numbers that support it yet.
Well, it's also possible that because there's more tanks,
confirmation
bias. You're seeing fights that aren't resulting in kills, right? Like if there's an easy stat for like we've been team fighting. Even if the kills didn't happen, like that would be maybe one that came up or something.
Yeah. I mean, guaranteed, if we made all the champions squishier and do more damage, then the games would be more action-packed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people just die quicker.
Yeah.
So, like, if they wanted to really force it, then...
Max HP is capped at 1,500, and health items don't exist.
Everyone build Duskblade. We're not nerfing Duskblade. In fact, everyone has
We're going to give it 80 ability power and make it work on spells, and it's going to cost 500 gold. Let's go. Just, that's the game.
Yeah.
Kobe, do you have any thoughts on 8.4? Like even the banner minions. What did you think of Baron, Banner, and the mania that happened?
I mean,
I know in NA it actually died off pretty much by 50% by the end of it.
I still think that Banner is, a good item in its own, and everyone was freaking out about how quickly you can take turrets and stuff with that. I do think that while it was interesting at first for people to hang on to minion dematerializers for later in the game, that seems like a pretty janky, feels bad counter or whatever. If you're like, all right, you're going to be the one to take garbage rune that only is going to be used to save. Not only do you have to take a garbage rune, but you have to save an inventory slot the whole game just so that we can counter this.
And it was usually supports, so they had to hold control wards and dematerializer stacks.
Yeah, it's not like
and boots, and you're like, wait, what do I even?
Okay, it's kind of cool that you like came up with this, counter or whatever, but that's a super feels bad, man.
There are a couple of interesting things that happen. I saw this last night actually in the Jin Air game that I watched, which is people who naturally run Predator run Ingenious Hunter, and then they want to buy Banner because they've already got active item CDR for their Banner. And so it's like, ooh, Olaf is always going to go Banner second item, which is like, okay, feels bad you have to do this, but it's like, hey, that's an optimization. That's fun. You have 40% CDR on Banner. Now it's like a 72-second cooldown. I can Banner really frequently. And that's just like,
you know what's fun on Olaf? Going Warrior
and killing people.
And killing people with axes.
Well, I agree. And that got changed to 8.5. He got attack damage ratio buffs and more damage. So
I was already looking ahead because they were playing. We already had Olaf show up on 8.4.
Yeah, we did.
In multiple regions, actually.
And in Korea so far.
And then he's got buffs here on the table for 8.5. However, there are
buffs
also
only
nerfs.
Warrior.
Let's honestly, we're going to go 8.5 now.
Great, let's do it.
You get permission to speak.
And LCS will be on 8.4 for another week, but we can kind of loop the discussion into 8.5 because the game is still getting figured out, so to speak, after those giant changes. Like, even just Predator as a jungler rune that people are taking, I think that's one of the things that enables Olaf to come back. Skarner kind of started it.
Yeah.
But it's really cool.
Yeah. There have been fun optimizations with that because you'll see like Flash Olaf where he's like, yeah, I can run Blue Smite and Predator. That's more than enough move speed.
And then you still get Flash.
So let's just take Flash for everything else. And then you have like everything covered in that way. And they're going to go Righteous Glory half the time anyway. So there's like a lot of cool synergies there. Skarner, kind of similar situations for him, which is kind of cool. 8.5 buff to Olaf, AD Olaf.
Yeah. Well,
Banner getting put down.
I was also going to say the Cinderhulk nerf, though, because while Olaf does get buffs to the direct champion, the Cinderhulk nerf is substantial. 5%.
Of bonus HP.
Of bonus HP is definitely a big hit to the item. It's not like this ginormous, they're taking like 100 HP off or whatever.
Yeah, you would have to buy 2,000 more max HP, which is 3 Warmogs for it to mean that.
Yeah,
right?
But it does, it's a significant hit at tanks, which is what we were talking about before. If you want to chip away at tanks,
and they chipped at Warmogs too.
This is a significant chip. And Warmogs, you can't rush it anymore. You used to be able
not a great first
on Sejuani, you could rush Warmogs after Cinderhulk as long as you were level 11, I believe.
Yeah.
Either 10 and a half. Yeah, 10 or 11, depending on what else you've got.
Yeah.
Then you would already have it activated. But now you're going to have to build something else
2 levels later.
Yeah, and something else that has health. As we're jumping into the 8.5 discussion, Phreak, I know every patch you make a YouTube video that does kind of a big patch rundown. So I'll give you the plug, man. If people haven't seen this, look
I have
up
never
Phreak's.
watched one.
YouTube.com/Phreak. It's only 45 minutes long. I tried to keep it short.
So for the people that want to listen to 45 minutes of this,
of just me,
you can
without
go to
the
Phreak.
guests.
Exactly. But now what I'm going to do for the viewers of the dive, what was the most exciting thing about the 45-minute video? Tell us now.
Yeah, the most exciting thing to me is they rebuffed Zoe in what I think are good ways. In my mind, the way Zoe should be functional is that she actually uses her autos, like and her passive and her W, and steals spells and does cool things. It's not one-shot you with Q. So basically, they softened the 8.4 Q damage nerfs. It's still worse than live before. It's still going to do much less one-shotting.
It's got a higher AP ratio, though, right?
Not counting more sparkles. Like, for sure, compared to 8.3, so it's better than 8.4, but it's for sure worse than 8.3 in all possible conceivable cases. Q is a weaker spell. They've buffed her attack range, they've buffed more sparkles, they've buffed W's damage, they've buffed W's move speed, like there's a lot of other things going on, but that power has shifted. I think she's probably still a little bit weak as people learn the champion, but I like Zoe existing. I think she's an interesting champion, and if she's about Spell Thief instead of one-shotting you with Q, then that's a good change.
Is she back in pro?
Probably not. I mean, I don't really know, to be honest, because like she didn't catch up from all the giant nerfs from 8.4, I think by a lot. But I mean, we've seen 40% women champions work in pro before. They're named Ryze and Azir, tend to be mid laners. So, I mean, I'm not a good enough mid laner or Zoe player to tell you for sure, but I mean, maybe someone tries it. I don't really know. Otherwise, small nerfs to Banner that basically just like increase the time to kill on a turret. Instead of 8 shots, it should be 12. So that if you're not running Dematerializer, like you'll lose less of your base during the push, I guess.
Right.
Everything else was just like sort of minor champion changes, though. I don't think anything like showed up like in or out of the meta as a result that I can think of. Oh, and Kaisa exists, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think Zoe will be back.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
Cool.
So super small sample size, 7,000 games. Zoe gained 7.5% on
crap.
Lawlytics.
Okay, that's actually a huge buff. I didn't see those numbers yet.
So she was at 40. So apparently Lawlytics has her at 47.5.
So one thing I did is
if she can wave clear again, I think she's back. I think that's actually it.
Yeah, her wave clear was about half as good to 2/3 as good as 8.3.
So the explosion damage was also reduced to 80%.
From zero, actually. So, like, in 8.3, it was 100%, right?
Yeah.
8.4 was 0%, and now it's back
pretty
to
much.
80.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are weird. So in 8.3, it was your base damage plus more sparkles, 100% explosion. And then at 8.4, more sparkles didn't exist, which is like half the damage of the ability in the first place. So our wave flare got cut in half.
Yeah.
And then at 8.4, they like rebuffed the base damage. The like per level scaling now counts in the AoE, but the AoE is 80% effective. So compared to 8.4, her wave clear her AoE is 2.5 times as good. Compared to 8.3, it's like 2/3 as good.
Fast.
Because it got massively nerfed in 8.4.
Yeah.
For her AoE.
Man.
But yeah, so she was at like 43% like for the last 2 days coming into the patch.
Okay,
that's
so
like where she was
up
sitting
from 40.
Yeah, because garbage champion on the first day
Yeah.
of nerfs. So yeah, so she gained like 4% sort of functionally as a result of the buffs. And
Since
probably
we're talking
more.
win rates,
Yeah.
Let's go.
your girl Kaisa is sitting at 33%.
Yeah.
All right, so that's like
Yasuo
like
tier.
first play.
That's first day Yasuo, first day Ivern. Both those games were broken as hell on release.
And Kobe, you already won with Kaisa. You were telling me earlier.
My personal experience tells me that she has 100% win rate. Because I woke up this morning and played one rank game, and I had a Kaisa mid insta-lock.
Yes.
Because she insta-locked, I was like, you know what? Maybe this guy played her on PBE or something. I was like, what the hell? I won't dodge. Let's play it out. I just picked Nunu, and I actually like camped for her.
No.
She was getting like ganked and stuff a lot, so I was doing like more like counter ganking. But I got her a bunch of early kills, and she was just popping off, killing
Great.
people. You know?
There you go, viable champion.
So
if Kobe's in your team, you're gonna win games.
I think she's strong. I saw her one shot a guy from halfway across the map.
Damn.
I think at some point Kaisa will be strong. Like, I just can't see a world with the long range. It's her W, right? That
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
super
W and
long
R
range
both
thing.
kind of.
So
And then her R. So I don't know if the win rate will be high, but with new champions, I feel like the designers and the balance team do whatever they can to like at least make them satisfying, right? And this is a 500 range champion who I feel like when she gets ahead and you're really good at her,
Is nuts.
it's going to be nuts. Like, you're not going to be able to split push against this champion if you're another AD carry. She's going to go in a side lane, come from the dragon pit, and kill you under your turret.
mine was
like,
mid, by the way.
And-
So I don't know
Yeah.
if that changes.
Yeah, I mean, once you're
might be
6,
a bit
you
better.
roam down, and it's like you have a mini Galio ultimate, right, to be able to affect sidelines or a
That's
Takia
a weird
wall.
mini Galio with no knock-up.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I'm
okay.
mainly talking about the mobility, right? So if
Nocturne ultimate.
and if they make her satisfying enough, and I don't know if she's there now from a laning perspective, but if they make her satisfying enough in lane so that she doesn't get smashed, it's like one good gank gets off or one good bubble by your Nami, and suddenly you actually have the potential to maybe take over the game.
Yeah.
Like, there's a chance this champ gets really good.
Leona lands E and you can teleport into the lane.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
Yeah.
that hard.
I'm a little bit biased because I'm always going off that what I saw in this one game
Sure,
or
of course.
whatever. But I really liked it in mid. I thought mid suited her very well. I have no experience with her in the bottom lane, but the 500 range didn't matter. She was against a Katarina.
So she's fine for that.
And so like the range wasn't really a big deal, and then the mobility was really nice. Since I ganked for her, then she was roaming around with me a lot, and I don't know, it actually felt pretty good in mid lane. So I would be very curious to see if her intended role as an AD carry does not end up being the best role for the champion. I know that sometimes they'll then kind of gauge their nerfs and buffs and stuff around.
To make them both
the
good or
intended
whatever.
role or whatever.
Yeah.
And usually they'll have like maybe 2 options, a couple roles or whatever for them to go into.
I'm looking up your game. I want to see what she built.
In talking with the designers about it, actually, like I think they're okay with her being good in any of those roles as long as like the champion actually works. Like I know there's like a rumor or a myth, whatever that's come around the internet that's like, Riot doesn't like when their champions play other roles. It's like they only nerf it when it's like actually degenerate, like Q Max Janna mid just doesn't interact with a lane ever, and it's like that's stupid.
Riot actually likes it when champions play multiple roles.
Like Zyron Morgana,
as long as it's not terrible to play against.
Right.
I do want. We were talking about this earlier, Phreak, just to focus a little bit on Kaisa build.
Yes.
Because there's been a lot of new champions where the build is completely unsolved, and that makes the champion suck for a while. So
like Ivern.
Ivern had Proto Belt as his recommended item for like when he released, and he was Garbo, and Kobe and I both built Proto Belt and Ivern and sucked, and then we're like, if you build the Fiends and Redemption and lock it, you actually just win every game.
Yep.
And that's what happened.
Yep.
And Kaisa has these really unique interactions where you're trying to get the evolves on your abilities with breakpoints. So Kobe, your 100% win rate Kaisa Do you remember what the build was?
I
just looked it up. I looked on your op.gg. So they're against Katarina, so he built a Hex Drinker.
Sure.
Yeah.
He also had a Gnasher's Tooth.
Yep.
A Rage Blade.
Yep.
And a Caulfield's Warhammer.
Yeah.
That's the end game build. They won.
So yeah,
So he got 2 of the 3 evolves.
he was trying to get the evolves, and I thought that was a really interesting thing when I was just looking at the champion on paper. Because one of the things I miss the most are having wacky builds on champions actually work. That was one of the things I was kind of sad when they started removing the extraneous AP ratios on people.
Oh yeah.
Even though some of the gameplay around some of those builds was.
But some of them was cool.
And
some of them were wonky, some of them were cool.
Some of them was really cool, and I really enjoyed being able to play like a full AP version of like Tristana or something.
Sure, yeah.
That's maybe a bad example because it's a one-shot sort of build, but
You're basically Vega.
being able to do a quote-unquote troll build that is effective is super fun to the person doing it, because you get even more enjoyment out of feeling like, oh man, I'm so innovative and I'm styling on these fools with my AP hipster build. So I like those to be at least semi-viable, and they've actually removed a lot of ratios that made things like that possible.
What's your best guess of the optimal Kaisa build?
I mean, I think optimal build, at least for bot lane, is probably what the dinos are already recommending, which is like Ruin King, Shiv, and then an IE or an SMV or whatever.
So just 80 carry.
Yeah, you're doing 80 attack speed, but like Ruin King especially, because it means that you'll actually hit 100 AD and 100 attack speed like reasonably quickly when it's normally not a third item in conventional builds.
Right.
But I do know that like AP Kaisa, will have a different play. Like you're talking about Tristana, right? Like
different play pattern.
It's gonna have a very different play pattern where like you're evolving W, so W's gonna apply 3 marks, and like it's more about your passive, because the passive is an AP ratio, but not an AD ratio and an attack speed ratio. So like AP attack speed Kaisa will function differently, which is cool.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go for
so
it.
Baron late game gives like 80 AP.
Doesn't count.
Oh, it's only items?
It's items and champion per level stats.
Damn.
And it's not even like things like Rage Blade, it's like on stack. It's the persistent stats.
Damn, I was going to say get Baron, buy a sorcery elixir, and evolve your ability, and just go fight because you hit 100 AP.
Yeah, evolves turn off when you lose the stats, and they only count.
It was getting so excited about this little hipster build, and then bam!
It was all intentional too. They're like, no, we don't want you to have to do a certain rune page like old Akali break points. They're like, no. Your runes can be whatever you want. Buy the build that's going to work for you. And I really, really recommend, please do not try to get all 3 evolves. It's so troll. Pick the 2 that work for you. If it's attack speed AP or attack speed AD, those are probably the 2 big ones.
Sweet. Yeah. Kobe, play more Nunu, dude. It's your highest winner champion on your op.gg.
There you go.
Thanks for analysis, bro.
Yeah, 67% win rate.
2-1?
10-5.
So one thing that's different this season is I've played a lot of flex queue games.
Oh, so that changes your win rates.
Those are, that lumps in with, rank stats. So
that's fair.
I want to quickly talk about the Nocturne buffs because I'm actually kind of excited for them. Since he is a jungler who's easy that I can play. Higher passive healing on his passive. Umbra Blades.
Yep.
And then also 2 more seconds of blackout on Paranoia.
Yeah.
Which is actually really cool because I think that gives him a lot more utility when doing objectives, like just pressing it.
Separate easily.
For the fear, right?
Yeah.
And I never do this, but if you want to troll a little bit for it, you can actually press R, teleport somewhere.
Yeah.
And then reactivate your R.
That's right, yeah.
So
you got more time to do it now.
True global,
summoner TP.
Yeah. You can be anywhere.
Great.
As Nocturne, if you want to do a teleport smite jungle Nocturne or an unsealed spellbook Nocturne.
Okay. These sound incredibly viable, by the way.
Yeah. I want to try it.
You can. Just don't queue with me when you do it.
Smite teleport. Nocturne dashes anyway.
Then you're okay.
No, so I'm not
Kobe,
going to do it.
What are you excited about in the patch?
I just think I'm going to play Nocturne.
Okay.
I kind of want to separate it into two little groups here, because I thought the little group of jungler changes was interesting, and that's kind of like the bruiser ones, which starts with the Cinder Hulk. 5% of the bonus thing was taken off. It's not game breaking, but to me it looked fairly significant because I really value health and I value it early.
Yeah.
One of the things where Cinder Hulk already kind of lagged behind is it's a scaling jungle item, later on in the game, you get a lot more dividends, and that kind of hits at that.
Yeah.
The other one that goes along with that, Aftershock cooldown was increased actually tremendously, because it used to be 20 seconds, and they added 15 onto it. So it was a very big change. And I did notice getting multiple Aftershock procs within a team fight.
Right.
So I know it's a wonky because you're not exactly sure how long all your team fights are going to last. But this feels like some of them I'll only get a single proc now.
Yeah.
So those are two kind of in tandem hits that bruiser junglers.
Here's what I think about that is the Warmog's nerf is huge for competitive.
Yeah.
When it hits competitive, because as you mentioned earlier, getting rid of the Cinderhulk plus Warmog's interaction totally changes the way you play around turrets and objectives.
Yeah.
When you were abusing Warmog's to its fullest extent, it was really powerful. So it's like, I'm going to tank 12 turret shots and be full health later. I'm going to start Baron whenever I want. And the fact that you actually have to build not only Warmog's as a third item, but after another health item changes it. So you can no longer do like Warmog's Locket. It would have to be like Vow Warmog's or something super delays it. And the Aftershock thing, I think, almost takes it away from a top lane keystone, because a lot of people were taking Aftershock over Grasp in the top lane and trading frequently. But when you're nearly doubling the cooldown, I think it's still viable for a jungler because you're going to get that burst of effectiveness.
I think that's the big change, actually, is it pushes it out of the laning phase much more so, which, I mean, I think is reasonable. It's the team fight keystone. It should be so, and you make a more reasonable choice with doing that. So I like that.
Yeah. Anything else on the patch before we talk about NA LCS?
Yeah, dude, we have Phreak here. We got to talk about Cloud Drake.
Oh, yeah!
Cloud Drake buff!
Cloud Drake got buff!
Is finally in combat move speed. And this is actually going to make everyone's brain explode. Like, everyone's going to be like, yes, I love Cloud Drake now. This is actually the only change that is necessary for people. Like, maybe the power level of the dragon goes up like this.
I think it did go up,
a decent margin. But the perceived power of it is going to go up
high.
Like, explodey, super glowy brain. You need to rush the Cloud Drakes now. Everyone's going to be all over these like they're over Infernal Drakes, I think.
As far as the math's concerned, it is in basically every conceivable case less out of combat move speed. I think no one's surprised, but the numbers are that. Basically impossible for it to be more, but it's obviously like 7 to 8-ish in combat move speed you didn't have before, which exists. It's not insane, but none of the Drakes were specifically insane in combat, even Infernal, in my opinion. But people will care about Cloud Drake a lot more, and cool. More Drakes killed means second Elder is stronger or whatever, and maybe more team fights around Drakes.
What about Swain?
Swain is probably overbuffed like hell.
Swain got buffed.
Swain apparently got buffed by a lot. You're looking at win rates. Apparently, it's really high. I already liked him. I seem to do well in the champion in the few games I had played him. I like him a lot. It seems like he's very sharp in his matchups where he's good against mid-range mages. He can kind of reach artillery, but he really can't fight assassins because you can't land the W or your E against someone in melee range of you. And so, like, I feel like champions like Fizz should have good matchups. Stats might say otherwise, and players who play at a higher level than me might say otherwise, but you pretty much can't root a Talon who tries to fight you. So, but I think he like destroys stat checks against other mid-range mages, which is most of what is played in pro. So I think he should be pro viable in 8.5.
Yeah, I think he's going to be so incredibly good because a lot of these changes are range changes and significant, and significant ones, as well as the cooldown for Q. So, I think Swain's going to be super OP because, like you, I had already been running into good Swain players.
Right. And I think it's super matchup dependent, as you said. So, especially when I see the Q cooldown going down 2 seconds at rank 1, when he was already an early game lane bully on melee or short range matchups, makes that strength so much more defined. But it's still going to be weak against guys that outrange you or are super jukey, and you're still not ever going to be able to land it.
So I just looked it up because I was curious if I was wrong or not. Win rate wise, his best 3 matchups in solo queue are Lux, then Talon, then Xerath, and number 4 is Fizz. So he actually does well against a lot of the assassins. So and some of that is maybe their lower win rate champions, but
what a slow play rate for.
Also, there's like no sample.
You're never
going to
assassinate him later when he's got his ultimate and stuff.
So I mean, either way, he's very much a mid range mage. Even though he can't pin down assassins, apparently he can just survive them. Who knows? We'll see what comes in. But I think he's super super strong. I expect him to be if people jump on it in time, a common pick in mid.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's patch 8.5.
Circle of Suck. Let's get to it.
Oh, let's go.
And there was an image making its way around as we move on to NALCS about the Circle of Suck. Basically, it showed in the last 2 weeks. Well, it was between weeks 5 and 7, so the last 3 weeks. But you could easily make a circle of any NALCS team beating another NALCS team, and it's like a full.
And you get all the way around the whole league.
Yeah, like Golden Guardians are better than Echo Fox, and then this team beat Golden Guardians and so on. No one was undefeated over that time, even that super short period. What do you think about the volatility of the NA LCS? I think that's basically what that
Best of ones, baby.
Yeah, sure. Some of it's best of ones, right? Like maybe Echo Fox wins those if they're BO3s, whatever. I think that's fine though. Like as far as volatility is concerned, I'm going to plug best of ones real quick, which is you play an 18-game season, which means if you really are volatile for 18 games straight and go 0-18 because of unlucky, no, sorry, that's not that anymore. So I don't mind like 1 or 2 games are off or, unluckily won or lost. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
And also I think it's like Golden Guardians got better. They've won at least 1 game per week for the last like 3 or 4 weeks in a row now. They've had like 4 straight 1-1 weeks. They're no longer a crap team. They're a decent team.
Yeah. And I'm really happy to see when we get wins for teams like this. Optic and Golden Guardians have been working very hard, and it gets like, it can be very depressing for players on the bottom teams.
Yeah.
Because you're spending your whole life. We already talked about the commitment players are putting in.
Huge.
Actually working 24/7, right? Or 24/6 because they get Mondays off. But
Right.
that's
Yeah.
and so they're pouring everything into it. And then when you're on the bottom and people are just flaming on social media, and it's kind of hard to get away from it in this day and age, especially at that age.
Oh, yeah.
For people, for them to for the hard work for a lot of these teams to be rewarded is super uplifting.
Yeah.
Just want to have that
Absolutely.
right out there first. But
they say it's a circle of suck. Really, it's just an uplifting circle
This is the
of
circle of
everyone
life.
beating everyone
The bottom
else.
came up. I think Echo Fox definitely did troll a little bit. Unfortunately, though, I think Optic are not getting any better. So they're just going to kind of still stay at the bottom, I think, for a while.
Phreak's a downer.
I'm going to be a downer on Optic. I liked them for a little while, but I think they need changes if they want to rise to Golden Guardian status of winning games now.
Yeah, well, essentially, I think all the 4 and 10 teams, which we have 3 of now, are in total rebuild phase for the next 2 weeks, and then as they move into summer splits, since there's no relegation, I'm really curious to see what they do. I do want to move to the kind of top teams, though, because we have Echo Fox, Cloud9, and Clutch. They've all clinched playoffs. If we're talking about first-round buys, Clutch still has a chance for it, but the road kind of is determined by them. They need to beat Echo Fox. That's our first game that we have. So essentially, Echo Fox versus Clutch.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there? Because Echo Fox's bottom lane looked very shaky last weekend.
Yep.
Teams were finally either throwing bans at it or ganking it, which had been pretty much non-existent for most of the split as they tried to focus on Huni and Phoenix. And then Clutch, aside from that loss against Cloud9 and the fact that they have lost to every team above them, right? And basically beaten every team below them, making them the most consistent team in the league.
Yeah.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I like that Clutch is consistent. It's just because they're never flashy and their games are all really slow that they never look special, but they're alone in third, which is really sick. I told you this one before, Jat, but I have a Jat stat for Kobe, who are the only players in the NA LCS who have played all of the games to have 0% first blood rate. There's 2 of them.
They've played all of the games in
of
the
players who have
NALCS.
played all the games. So don't count half the FlyQuest roster.
Yeah.
These 2 players have 0% first blood rate. They've never been a positive first blood.
Are they on the same team?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hint I didn't get.
That's true.
Since we're talking about Clutch and Echo Fox, is it going to be Solo and Lyra?
It's actually Clutch's bot lane.
Oh,
I've never been involved in First Blood. And you're talking about Echo Fox having a weak in lane, duo lane. Well, apparently just
being involved in getting First Blood does not make you a weak or strong bot lane.
Yeah.
I remember them, by the way, invading with the Lyra Skarner or whatever. They were involved in giving up.
They were part of First Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they came back in that game. So this is what would need to be a statement win for Clutch, as we've talked about. I am still not sold on this team.
I'm not either.
I think Solo has performed way above his expectations, but I've never really felt like he's taken over the game. I feel like Lyra had a really bad start and has stabilized his split, but literally only on Skarner and Sejuani. His champion pool seems so fragile to me. And then Apollo and Hakuho, as you mentioned, haven't been getting first blood, are reliable, but I still don't see Apollo as a guy who's a late game carry. So it's basically, to me, a bunch of stable players
and
Febiven overperforming and kind of carrying them in the late game. But that just...
It seems really narrow.
It's super narrow to me.
And you think Febiven is overperforming?
I think he's
actually a good player.
Rather, I didn't mean overperforming, but basically overperforming in comparison to everyone else on the team. Like, who is actually dragging them over the finish line for these wins?
It's Febby.
And I think it's almost always Febby.
Yeah.
So he's been smashing.
He's actually nuts.
This split.
He's actually so good.
He has also gotten Azir in the last 3 of their 4 games. And I know that's definitely one of his favorite champions, even from his history as a player. Absolutely. It was very good. It is getting an upcoming nerf on 8.5.
Yep, which is 9+ playoff patch.
Yeah, that's going to be a ways out, but it's going to be on playoffs. So
so I just
MVP a hit.
There's definitely an element of I really want the new orgs to win. Like, I think for the overall health of the league, having a different banner than CLG, TSM, or C9 in the studio would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not that's Echo Fox or Clutch or 100 Thieves or one of these teams.
Team Liquid.
But
a different banner.
I also don't want to overhype a team because they've picked up so many best of 1 regular season victories in what I feel like is a very narrow way. Because I feel like you look at the way they're winning games, you look at the champions they're picking. I think as soon as you get into a best of 5, this team becomes dismantleable by a competent opponent. And maybe we just haven't had many teams that have really focused on Clutch because they haven't seen them as a threat.
Sure.
Like, you listen to any of these player interviews, there have been so many different players, I feel like, who have been like, yeah, that Clutch team, their roster, they're like the 8th place team, or they're just like disregarding them as this bottom team tier, which clearly they're not. Yeah. But I also do not think they're a top tier team, despite where they are in the standings.
To be fair, like the whole 9th best team was from Double F, who will call everyone bad for what it's worth. But I know he's actually specifically told me he respects Hakuho. When I would rated Apollo an A tier above him, he's like, you know that lane's carried by Hakuho, right? I'm like, okay, fine, whatever you say. But but yeah, I mean, I had Clutch as a playoff team coming in. I think they had themselves a playoff team coming in. They themselves said winning the split would be unlikely, though possible, and I think that's still sort of true.
Yeah.
I think I mean, obviously they're going to remain in playoffs. They've actually locked that right now. Yep. I would expect them to win against most of their quarterfinal opponents at this point. Even though it's not really convincing, it's just they're consistently strong. And unless people really do figure out, oh, no, we can ban Lear out and he's garbage, we can ban Sol out and he's garbage, and their bot lane's never aggressive, so we never have to worry about that. Really, maybe they are figure-outable, but I think they're a top 4 team.
Sure. Quarterfinal opponents, then, if they get the 3 seed, that means the 6 seed is probably populated by TSM or TL.
Sure. 100 Thieves are tied with TL right now, and CLG could make the run.
One of those 3 teams, 100 Thieves.
I think they could beat any of those 3 or 4 teams. I think they have a decent shot / favored based on which one it is.
Yeah. Kobe, do you have thoughts on this? Or you want to talk about Echo Fox?
Yeah, I say we continue down the circle of suck here.
Okay. Continue. You want to talk about every team? Because everyone beats everyone else, man.
I mean,
I think Echo Fox is mostly a victim of, I think their bot lane had a bad time. They played against Xayah Rakan several times, which is the duo lane. And hey, their fault for giving it away and losing to it.
That was
that's
weird,
still
dude.
On them.
We saw 5 teams let Xayah Rakan pair.
Yeah.
And then when I watched the LCK, one of them is banned on red side every game.
I think it was just something that the coaches and analysts missed. They just didn't see it coming.
Some of them did, and some of them prioritized it, and they were like, "Whoa, cool! We got Xayah Rakan and Skarner and Galio."
It's the kind of thing that red side should pick first phase every time, or find a way to isolate from themselves. And we'll see a blue team will first pick Xayah and say, "Dare you to pick Rakan without it?" And and that's a little mind game, metagame thing.
Yeah. Well, I fall on actually if they're not paired, then I don't like Rakan without Xayah.
Right.
I think the laning phase is too weak. So that's why blue side holds all the power, because they just first pick Xayah, who's pretty good regardless, and then you're either forcing the other team into picking a mismatched Rakan. So that's why I think you just ban one of them.
Exactly.
You ban Xayah.
And that means you have to do it on red side.
Yeah. And you lose another red side ban, which is...
Yeah. Or you make them first pick Xayah, right? And you find ways around that. If you have a lane that can stabilize Xayah Rakan, Leona specifically is supposed to be a counter pick into the lane in some way. We're seeing that show up more and more in Korea and NA. There might be lanes that can handle it.
We had an interesting question. Oh, actually, maybe we shouldn't spoil the question. Dive comes out first.
Ask it.
It's on this or that.
It's going to tease this or that.
Okay.
They released 8 hours apart. We filmed this or that this morning before the dive, which is usually the other way around, because we had to replace Azael last minute due to him being out sick.
Yep, and I couldn't make it right at 11 when we normally record.
Delay.
Yep.
All right, Phreak. Both me and Jat had the same answer.
Okay.
Is Echo Fox still the number 1 team, the best team?
The best team.
Because technically they are
best
North
NA
America.
team on 8.4.
Oh, yes.
On 8.4.
My answer is going to be
instantly yes. Okay, yeah. We both said yes as well.
Wrinkly brains.
And I do expect...
Inside joke.
Yeah.
I do expect
Can you explain the smooth brain insult? We were talking about I had never heard the smooth brain insult until this morning.
It's making its way around now.
I feel like so. Yeah.
So basically, more surface area is associated with higher cognitive function.
Okay.
So if your brain is very smooth, you don't have a lot of surface area.
Right.
So and a lot of the reactions are based on. Because the surface area, so you're not allowed to get as much in there.
Right.
That's why people are trying to use it as an insult.
Yeah.
Like
or wrinkly brain is a compliment.
Yeah,
Smooth brain.
Because smooth brain sounds like a compliment.
Yeah.
And so if they're too dumb to get it,
yeah.
So I want to know where this started because Kobe said he read an article on Twitter and he's seen other people mention it in solo queue. So like
it's making its way around.
I think we have enough people who watch this show. Like if they can tweet us. Or tweet me. I'm really curious about this. Like, where did you first find out about the smooth brain insult?
Aren't there also like you can Google like meme origins or whatever?
yeah.
I don't think it's too fresh. I don't think there's going to be
Know your meme.
Origins smooth.
Okay.
Brain.
Is this a bit off topic, or are we actually?
It is.
going for
I
the
mean
play?
I brought it up. I'm very curious.
There's a whole list of pictures here, dude.
For smooth brain?
Yeah.
So you feel like you
gotta
independently
know your
came up
brain.
with the same meme that someone else had also independently came up with.
There you go.
After I read this article, I said smooth brain.
Divergent
I think it
evolution.
might have been too Phreak. All right, told Phreak he had a smooth brain.
Well, you explained it to me like day one. You brought it up to me.
Anyways,
right
what I was
Yeah.
trying to talk
Okay.
about
Okay, let's
was
go.
the North American LCS.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Full
all
of
their
smooth
wrinkly
brains.
brains.
Only Echo Fox.
Yeah, because I really do feel like Echo Fox, Dardoch has performed above expectations.
Yeah, he's really good.
For me, like throughout the entire season, right? So I think that Echo Fox still is going to be the team to beat in playoffs and going to be kind of like the one people are trying to avoid. Cloud9 also obviously looking very strong, but if we continue down the circle of suck outside of the ones that have been locked in to the playoffs,
Yes.
Yep.
this is where it gets super interesting. Because
timeline.
you have the TSM CLG thing where CLG are trying to heat up, they're trying to make this crazy run,
only
and they're
two
going to
behind,
have
more to
a
play.
game versus TSM
Yes.
that would like be a possibility of a spot to take.
So this is the possibility, and I actually hate CLG at this point because
We're making you look dumb.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna talk about this on NA LCS Countdown, but we had stats check Mark and I's predictions for our prediction percentages of certain teams, and I have a worse percentage correct of CLG games than CLG has won games. Like I have a 29% prediction rate on CLG. And like a 90%
bias. That's what
prediction rate
personal
on
bias does to
yeah, clearly. But it's because they're so damn... I'm a very logical person.
Okay.
And that's generally how I do the predictions, which is why I hate this team. Anyway, the scenario we're in now, they're 2 games behind TSM. TSM is the 6th place team. They have a game against TSM, who, if they beat, moves them within 1 game of TSM. So therefore, TSM would only have to lose 1 other game if CLG can run the table to be in the playoffs, or at least have a tiebreaker for the playoffs. So therefore, we're obligated to talk about CLG now.
We got all the writers working on this to try and make this
happen.
This last game of the season would be insane if TSM and CLG are playing.
If CLG can go 3-1. Their only hard opponent is Echo Fox, and TSM can go 1-3. Their only easy opponent is Golden Guardians.
Well, doesn't CLG plays TSM? Like that's
what I mean, and that would be the final one, right? For the 1-3 versus 3-1.
That's literally our last game.
And that ties their records.
Literally, last episode was in memory of CLG and Trackers Knife. That was the title of the episode.
I wasn't on that episode.
And then they won a bunch of games.
They 2-0'd C9 and TL. Those were supposed to be death matchups for them.
And that would have knocked them out.
Yeah, C9 they were down 10,000 gold.
And they still did it. Easy, truly counter logic, chat. They're living up to their name. No, so here's the biggest timeline. They get to that match, and then TSM just smashes them in 5 minutes. It's just like, oh, you tried.
Yeah, I mean, they do speak, like, Zik's always thrown out the, like, 6-0 finish to the season. They only have, 4-0 left that they need to do. I think it is just about getting better, so, like, we'll see this weekend. The most CLG thing to do would be to lose to FlyQuest. Which was the first matchup. Like, everyone's like, oh, man, if they
then beat Echo Fox.
Beat Echo Fox, beat TSM, right? Like, they just win 3 out, and then they lose by 1 game, and they don't make it in playoffs. Like, that's the most kind of logic thing. to do. Do you think they can do it? What's your percentage chance?
I mean, CLG going 3-1 and TSM going 1-3 are both, like, if I'm reading it right, that should tie them.
That would tie them.
Two. Mm-hmm. Let's say 25%. I mean, a lot. Well, okay. Because, yeah, but I think that's about right. I think CLG is better than FlyQuest. I think CLG should win the match they're supposed to win. Yeah, I mean, this feels reasonable. And then, setting up for the showdown, I think it's 25%. TSM versus CLG is a close game from there, but like the 2-1 to 1-2 to meet, I think is about a quarter of the time that would happen. That seems about right to me.
I give it 15%.
Okay.
What about the other two teams that are kind of sitting? We basically lump them in with the playoff teams, but they haven't locked yet. 100 Thieves and Team Liquid.
Yeah.
I know that, Team Liquid's losses recently, people are still kind of writing off like, oh yeah, but this is the $1 million team, right?
Yeah,
like,
and TL plays
fine.
TSM and Clutch next week. So if they continue to struggle, that would be an 0-2.
100 Thieves gets to fight
and then they play C9 and then Optic. Their schedule is brutal, dude.
That's what I'm saying. People keep writing off these losses, but they're getting more and more expensive.
Yeah, both of them do fight Optic, though, within the next 2 weeks. So that's at least like one win stacked in. And at a certain point, like, they're just going to lock. Like, CLG would have to beat Fox. These guys have to go 0-4, right? Like, it's pretty much not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. But if CLG does beat Fox and TL
and these guys lose
games,
to Optic, and then CLG is like the 4th seed in the playoffs, and you're just like, what is going on anymore? It seems unlikely.
I really want it to happen.
I mean, sure, upsets are fun, but
I'm not going to predict any of it to happen.
No. No.
Which will only decrease my percentage win rates on CLG games. I'm just not going to predict it. They're going to lose.
I just want that showdown.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from predicting. I just want to not predict CLG games ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the possibility.
You are exciting.
Yeah. No, the CLG thing is they'll 2-0 week 8 and lose to Optic and lose the chance. That's the CLG thing. That's kind of logic right there. So many road bumps just waiting.
I hate them. Okay, we're going to move on to Twitter. First question is, this guy's got a terrible Twitter name. @TylerM726318806.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Well, you just hate numbers?
Because 2631805 was taken, so he had to add a 6. With Cho'Gath being the prominent banner command building top laner, do you think teams will start to ban him or elect to choose high kill pressure counter picks into it?
So I think Cho is, first of all, someone says if I could see Quinn, I'd be happy. Cho is good into poke, because Cho has an 8 sustain. I feel like it's actually really hard for him to die to like moderately low damage physical damage champions.
Bro, they didn't nerf Warmogs yet. Everybody has innate sustain.
Well, yeah, but at least that's at like level 3.
I know.
I know you're trolling.
Cho hits it faster because he can buff his max health.
Well, right, and he just has his passive, and it's like you don't push him out of lane like a Lissandra or a Quinn. That doesn't happen. You like have to all in him somehow, and your windows are pretty small for that. I mean, Cho is a generically safe like top lane blind pick tank bro who one shots banner minions with his ultimate. So, I think Cho's going to be like a top 3 top laner, and I don't think you have like hard counters to him.
Interestingly enough, already before the Swain buffs, Swain has one of the best win rates versus Cho'Gath, and it does make a lot of sense now that I'm thinking more about the mid-range pressure and the early pressure. If you can shove Cho'Gath off of the actual minion waves to keep him from using the passive early, then you can get things like we previously saw at Worlds. Jace was the premier example of this. You push him off the minion wave, keep him poked down, and then he doesn't sustain off those minions, and you bring jungle pressure. I can see similar things happening if you have a good Swain player and these big Swain buffs are coming in. Things could get bad for Cho'Gath on 8-5.
Right.
And they might already, I would already honestly even be comfortable with someone picking Swain, in that specific matchup.
Yeah. I'm even on 8-4. I think Cho'Gath is kind of hard to punish, but I think the reason we didn't see him in previous patches was because of how bad he is in 1v1 like split push scenarios against, say, a late game Camille or even a Gnar who's built a lot of
like. As soon as he has Mallet, he can't die to Cho anymore.
A Mallet, exactly. So I think Cho is a great tank counter pick, but I think he's a dangerous blind pick.
Yeah.
And becomes even more dangerous as a blind pick with things like Swain there. So if you do not have top lane counter pick and you want to pick a tank, you should be banning Cho.
Yeah.
Because I think we saw too many instances this week of people forgetting what type of late game team fighting god Cho'Gath was. Like, he'd be like, Maokai, I have, 3 items, and then Cho'Gath feasts you and you die instantly. Like, he silences the tank when he runs in, he then eats the tank, and now it's Cho'Gath versus no other frontline. Like, that power makes him, I think, right now, the best late game team fighting tank, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
In tank v tank matchups.
Yeah. You have a lot of, like, low health low HP tanks.
Yeah.
Just because of build path and stuff. So
all right, next question. Zanwick Say Levy. I think I actually got that right.
Yeah, C'est la vie. It's the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kest Lavi.
Yeah. So
those French lessons really paid off for you. Phreak. High school.
Hard C.
yeah. So I'm sure I've told this story before, but before I took French classes, since C'est la vie was a saying, I just like it's French for I actually forget now. It's
that's
okay.
Life.
That's life, right?
Yeah.
It's French for that's life. But as a kid, I was like, yeah, you just say la vie.
Yeah.
Like,
S-A-Y.
Yeah.
Levy.
Why are you
Did I
saying
hear that?
levy?
Did I hear that from you before? Because I feel like I've heard
Absolutely.
this story.
Yeah, Jazz
from
told the
other
story like
people.
3 times. Yeah.
You're like, yeah, just say la vie.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that just means like relax, dude.
La vie.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I think it works both ways.
Yeah.
Anyway, catching teams off guard seems like a viable strategy. Why aren't teams playing like old the Gigabyte Marines? Nocturne, Urgot, double tank bot lane.
Yeah.
Seems like FlyQuest pulled this out as a last-ditch effort for playoffs.
I've been asking myself that question ever since I first saw the Gigabyte Marines. Why aren't more teams playing like the Gigabyte
excited.
Marines?
I got the answer for you. Because you have to do it all the time to be as good as the Gigabyte Marines.
That's true.
Like, you have to hard commit to playing that way. You need to have practiced cheese strategies. You need to run Nocturne level 6 15 times in scrims to be polished with it, to be as polished as these other strategies which guys practice hundreds of times. So it's not a switch you can flip in week 9, being like, well, the previous 8 weeks of playing Standard haven't worked. Time to reinvent the way we play League of Legends.
I don't know.
I would take issue with it takes 15 games. I agree it requires some level of practice, and this is something I thought was going to happen a little bit because Academy teams exist, that like, hey, C9, just play against C9 Academy. They're going to have to do this. Go practice your stuff. And like, we saw Scion mid come out from going, and now from elsewhere, of course, as well. But like, right, like, you have a way to practice Scion mid in isolation. You have a way to practice Volibear, right, first before everyone else, and make sure that you know the champion and they don't yet.
Right.
Like, there's things coming out. You know, what if AD Jarvan is the better Jarvan build now after the 8.5 changes? Like, that's the kind of stuff you practice against Academy, and
I mean, that's so much different than being Gigabyte Marine.
So I mean, you're right, but like that's the stepping stone, right? Is like you have to be willing to be the first one to do something, not knowing if it's even good.
Yeah,
and that's the hard part.
To me, this isn't even like the question isn't why don't more teams cheese or why don't more teams use random champions or whatever that you're not going to see. To me, the biggest thing about the Gigabyte Marines was the pace of the game that they kept, and I think that I was expecting to see more teams at the bottom of the standings try and do that, where you just accelerate the pace of this game so that it's so quick. These teams that are like, I'm better than this other team, we're just going to go to late, free win. Don't get a chance to do that, right? If you maintain a super fast game and you're choosing champions that can travel large distances, which was a really big part of how the Gigabyte Marines were able to keep those super fast-paced games and make them so exciting, like kills up top, kills down bottom, is because they're taking things like Nocturne ultimates and Galio ultimates and teleports, and they're doing these weird lane assignments. Yeah, and they've got things like that. I think that teams embracing super fast kind of cross-map play is very viable. But again, the pros, especially here, like because of the downsides, the flack from social media or the reluctance to be super punished on stage. Like if you don't pick if you don't follow the meta, if you don't go down the tier list or whatever, does seem like a decent hindrance. But I guess the team I was expecting most to do this was Golden Guardians, with high-end contracts and stuff. Right. Just like go balls to the walls,
And they've done it a little bit to like a less extreme.
They did the Camilio Galio. I thought that was.
They did Camille Jungle. Almost no one else in NA has done that. Yeah. They've done Volibear Jungle. I have one final thing to kind of say on this though. Yeah. Current, or rather, World's Gigabyte Marines and Season 2 Gambit are actually pretty similar to me in the way that they like just played faster and more aggressive than people were ready for. And I do think there is a certain environment that is almost required for that to work, because I still think it takes you have to kind of play like that all the time if you want to be able to surprise people with it. And Gigabyte Marines was just so much better than everyone else they played and practiced against for the most part. So they can constantly smash people with these strategies. And back when Moscow 5 came onto the scene, they actually played more ranked 5s than like any other team had ever done, because everyone else just spammed solo queue, so they had better team play. But also, since no one played ranked 5s, you just smashed kids all day long. And And I do think there's something to that.
How do you beat IEM champions in ranked queue, right? Like, no.
Exactly. But I think there's something to that of being able to smash people to get reps of winning.
You think
right?
so? You think that playing worse opponents is actually better?
If you want to play like the Gigabyte Marines. Because otherwise, if you're trying to practice this super out-of-the-box strategy for the first time against SKT, you're going to lose the game in 5 minutes, and you're going to try and remake over and over and over again, and you're never going to get the reps to actually make it good. It's the same reason you run practice drills before you run it in game.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting because I think if you're going to lose your first 5 minutes to any high quality team, then like the strategy is crap until you learn how to not lose to a team like SKT in 5 minutes. So you
have to practice
get taken in your face sometimes.
Baddies, so to speak, before you can pull it out against the good teams.
Yeah, I mean, there's some elements of truth, I think, on both sides. I do think that, in general, though, teams definitely immediately slow down when they get on stage. I actually learned an interesting statistic when we ran the Clash tests, like on EU West a few months ago. Game time was so much slower than solo queue, slower than pro. Like, everyone's like, oh
players.
Gosh, we're in stakes. And like, everyone slowed down a ton. And it's like, ostensibly people try to win in rank, but there is some level of like, you need to get past the fact that like, holy crap, this game matters, and actually just go for stuff.
Well, also, to me, because it's a lot of people's first introduction to 5-man communication, how complicated that is. Trying to for a team to decide what to do just takes longer when you're queuing with your 5 friends or whatever. Before in solo queue or whatever, you act on what you think is right, and you spam pings at people, and you tell them they're stupid if they didn't come to your follow your idea or whatever.
Or do you say they have a smooth brain?
Yeah, or you say they have a smooth brain.
I feel like that's actually super insulting. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah,
like,
it is. That's the whole point
like
of
a
it.
really toxic thing to say.
Yeah,
that's why I like
toxic.
But so I feel again I've been really stuck on this idea of the 5-man communication like for the past month or whatever. But I think it goes in a long that goes a long way in slowing games down because everyone's trying to come to a conclusion. So you're like having discussions during the game. You're like, do we do this? No, we shouldn't do that. We should do this or whatever. And it actually just slows down the process.
You know, it's great, Kobe. I can segue you talking about communication to our next Twitter question.
Oh, sick.
All right,
read it, bro.
Amish Twinkie says...
Wait, you didn't ask if you could read it.
He did.
Ask permission.
I think he did.
No?
I brought it up and Jats was like happy about it, so I think he outranks you. How much of the game do you think is dependent on champion matchup versus team and player synergy? Could the team with the best communication but worst champs in their roles beat the team with the worst comms but the best champs?
No.
Yes?
I don't think so.
Well, it depends what you define as team and player synergy. Like, are they all equal skill players?
Yeah, so it's like you put, you know, solo queue version of King Zone versus actual King Zone, but everyone on the solo queue team got a counter pick.
All right, so you have...
And you're not allowed to comm
so
or
basically,
type.
you have King Zone Dragon X
you clone
on the
them.
side that have... they're on Skype.
The same?
Great.
They're on Discord.
They're on,
You have the clone version on the other side that gets to Nemesis draft for the team on Discord.
Yes.
The team that gets to Nemesis draft wins.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Real hard.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because they're still going to know enough about playing.
You just win your lanes way too hard.
Yeah.
It's the discrepancy in champion power from the very bottom to the very top at this level is you just cannot overcome that. Like, what is the communication going to be like if the other team
and Rise up 100 CS and one-shots everyone?
Yeah, the other team is... I mean, are they going so far as to choose the lane? But anyways, I was going to come up with a super wonky example, but like, okay, you know, they're running like...
You get to play Kale into Singed and just like smash them every time, right?
Yeah,
just like...
Yeah. There's a surprising number of like really boosted sounding team comps that could actually be good, but imagine like just a terrible bottom lane that has no way of engaging and no way of farming.
The communication starts early on. It's 3 minutes in the game. Hey guys, we got double killed again. What do we do?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we need to have... Let's all rotate. This, like, we're down 20 kills.
Yeah. What's the worst bottom lane possible, Kobe?
The worst bottom lane for pro play possible?
Yes.
God.
This is actually really hard.
This is a question.
I'm going to go ahead and say, like...
This is going to be our...
Cho'Gath plus...
I honestly want to...
Non-mobile...
No, I want to say... I want to say two squishy melees. Don't even give him a Cho'Gath here. Take him Kane and both melees too. Like super
Kane and Yi?
Or Yi Trind. They both need gold. Yi Yasuo.
Trend Yi, yeah.
Trend
God, Yasuo.
Yasuo has win wall. Yasuo's actually a bot lane
Now
to
Yasuo,
support.
Trend Yi is a pretty crap lane.
I think Trend Yi.
That's pretty rough.
Because if you give one of them a
play
tank,
Zyra
then they
and
might
win
have
1v2.
all in.
Yeah,
Like-
or Kane Yi.
What about
Kayn blink
Garen
backwards?
Kane?
Huh?
Or is Garen too tanky? And
Garen's pretty
too
tanky.
base
Yeah,
non-effective?
He'd play support.
I like the Trend Yi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trend Yi is a pretty crap
Okay.
bot lane. And you play like Zyra Caitlyn, and you just like don't get to play League of Legends.
Yeah, so I don't care about
You literally
your
just can't
comms.
play League of Legends.
If you're playing Trin Yi against Janet Caitlyn,
Yeah.
there's no way your
You
team
lose your
synergy
turret, right?
is overpowering.
And your jungler is Soraka, so have fun with that, right?
Let's
Like,
put this to the.
you're not ganking.
yeah, tweet us your worst possible team comp.
Yes.
Well, I want to put this to the test. Like last time we had the bet where it was going to be Azael double F versus me sneaky. I want it to be like two of us with Caitlyn Janna versus two pros with the Yi.
Ooh,
And we played the Howling Abyss like first blood, first hero, 100
yeah.
rules.
We would win.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we would.
Would we?
I'm
I'm getting scared now. I'm getting kind of
You
scared.
could give
We'd
them
win.
Darshan and like Huni. We'd still win that. Yeah.
We would 100% win.
Yeah.
I don't know
I'm really confident in
100%.
this, actually.
100%.
Yeah.
We get to pick their champs.
Yeah.
Six.
Okay.
Do we include jungle as well? And Kobe gets to like jungle against Soraka? Just
Yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah.
lane
yeah.
pressure,
Okay,
right?
Now I'm on board. Now I'm
Yeah.
on board.
Like,
All right.
Dardoch gets some Soraka jungle, you get your Sinjao, and just have fun.
If we ever do cashers versus pros, it's so much. We get
That's
to pick
it.
their team comp.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of The
We would
Dive.
get smashed.
No, we win. We win.
We would
100%.
win, right? Thanks for
For
joining
sure.
us. I promise and hope that next week we'll have Azael back.
You
even though
promise? You're promising first?
yeah, I'm promising. Phreak's been a great guest.
Thank you.
But it's been 4 episodes since we've had Jack Kobe Azael episode. I just wanted
Because we had
get
guests.
him in.
else, yeah.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
had guests.
Hashtag
Yeah, you
the
missed
dive
the old
LOL.
us, Jack.
I missed the old us, the old crew. Let's get the gang back together. NLCS starts this weekend. NLCS countdown starts at 1:30 Pacific time, and Clutch Gaming for Psycho Fox is at 2. So definitely watch that because it's a really important game.
I agree.
Good job, Phreak.
Good job, man. You did it.
You did it.